Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, fellow Ristopians. Bit of an impromptu video today because something's cropped up that I, despite loving watches for decades, haven't really considered this fully until today. And that is, as you've seen in the title, male versus female end links. On the right, we have male end links, and here on the left, we have some female end links, including the watch that I'm wearing, which is the Omega Planet Ocean, which I will be reviewing in the next video. Lovely watch, really love it. So let me tell you what I found out today and see what you think. So just to, that's not going to help because they're both male end links. Just in case you're not aware of what I'm talking about, here we have on the left the female end link. So because okay, let's get that right so you can see that. Maybe that's not the best one to show you. So this one with a female end link. So the middle section of the end link is shorter than the two outer sections. I say sections, it's all one piece, but it's generally made to look like three. They're all oyster style bracelets that we're using here today. And then on a male end link, the middle section sticks out beyond the two side sections of the end link. So I'll just show you those again so you can see the difference. So that's the difference between the two. Now, I've decided today that I prefer male end links. End links, male versus female, as far as I understood until today, was basically because I'll go back to the Invicta, was basically because the female end link means that the bracelet drops immediately, more or less, on most watches from the case. Whereas on the male end link version, ever so slightly on this one, but it hangs over a bit more, so it increases effectively the lug to lug. It adds to that in terms of wearability. Now, it doesn't really affect me whether they're male or female in terms of fitting. I mean, the biggest watch I've got here is this Planet Ocean, which is 43.5 millimeters, and I only discovered today actually that this has female end links. Now, if someone had asked me today, are they male and female on this watch, without looking, I wouldn't have known. I think I'd have taken a guess that they were male, but as you can see, they're not. Interestingly, on the there's a newer Planet Ocean, the Ultra Deep, and that actually does have male end links, but this one, the current 43.5, has female, but I just hadn't really considered them to that. I just wouldn't have known. It's not something I'm obviously aware of what the watch looks like and what the end links look like, etc., etc. But I hadn't really considered whether I minded whether they were male or female until today, because having done some research and had a look at what the options, what the differences look like visually rather than size, because size doesn't affect me. What they look like visually, I am definitely a male end link person now. The reason for that is, and they're all slightly different. There are lots of differences between each one. They're not exactly the same, but generally speaking, on an oyster style bracelet, I think it's just cleaner. There's one less. If you look at these two next to each other, there's one less join on this one than on this one, so it just looks a bit cleaner. The end link looks pretty much exactly the same as each link, three-piece link on the bracelet. So to me, that looks it just looks nicer. This is ever so slightly fussier because it's got that extra join there, and it doesn't follow on. It looks sort of back to front, whereas on this one, it follows on. Now, I had the Rolex Oyster Perpetual on the channel yesterday. Haven't got that anymore. So I do have, this is mine, the Pagani design copy of the Oyster Perpetual. It's a pretty accurate, it's a very accurate copy around this area. So this is how Rolexes would be. I think I'm right in saying that all Rolexes have male end links these days. And so I prefer that look. A couple of things while I've got this in my hand. It is quite a good copy. It obviously has a date, whereas the real thing doesn't. It is actually slightly smaller. I think it's 40mm rather than 41. And it's 20mm lug width rather than 21. But in terms of design, it's very, very similar. So I prefer the male end link for that reason. How about you? I mean, do you have a preference for male or female end links from a design point of view, not from a fit point of view? So just to go through a few differences with them, there's a couple of options with how they are, or seem to me with the watches I've got here, how they can be done. Now, I mentioned this in the review of this helm, that I thought that the end link here it looked a bit cheap compared to the rest of the watch. Now, this is a solid female end link, so they could have just cut those fake grooves a lot deeper. And that would have then, I think, looked a lot more like three separate pieces. I mean, they are always one piece, whether they're pressed or, sorry, hollow or solid. I guess with the exception, if you had, going back to Rolex or an Omega, let's say you had, it was a two-tone, because then it would be solid gold in the middle and steel either side. So that would have to be kind of three pieces of metal, which I'm guessing that they would fuse together in some way. But they would actually be originally, I guess, three separate pieces of metal. But let's stick with stainless steel. Let's forget about gold. So I'm guessing all of these end links are one piece of metal. And in fact, I know they are. So there's various ways that they can make it look like three pieces. The cheapest and way I like the least is just by having, if this was a hollow end link, they'd have no option but to have very shallow grooves. But because this is solid, they could be a lot deeper. But on here, they're not. And I think that looks pretty cheap. Now, another way they could do it, let's get another, actually the one I'm wearing. So so again, female end link, but this time, instead of cutting a groove in, they have just raised slightly that middle section. They have just, I'm sure, I think, yeah, that's going to be one piece, I'm sure. They have just raised, although saying that, maybe it's three pieces on this this Omega, but that middle section is raised rather than having a groove cut in it. And if we go to the male end link watches I've got here, so we've got this Seiko. Again, they've gone for the raised option, which I think looks better. Now, some people, I think, don't like the fact that that's not flat and that whole section being raised is quite chunky. On this Seiko here, it's not done particularly well. It's not very sharp. On the Rolex Alike here, it is very well engineered. So it's a very definite corner to this middle section of the male end link. So I guess having these three, another option is if you've got center polishing, that gives quite a nice difference between the three. So that looks, I think that actually looks nicer than the helm, and they've achieved that. That's actually flat, but the fact that it's polished and brushed either side gives you that point of difference, which I think works really well. I think, you know, polished center links might not be to everyone's liking, but I think this actually looks one of the nicest out of the well, saying that, probably not the Omega, but that's a very nicely made watch. I think very that design just works. It drops down very flat. It has the difference between the three sections of the end link. I think that works really well. So the other, where's it gone? Here it is. So on as I say, on this one, it's raised. So I'm guessing potentially, I haven't got one with this, but I'm guessing that could be flat on a male end link, and there could just be two grooves cut there. But I think that would just look cheap, like I believe the helm does. So that wouldn't be great. I'm also wondering if the reason that's raised is to kick up the point that the bracelet joins. You know, maybe if that joined what would be, a few mil lower down, that actually then wouldn't look great when it's on your wrist like that, probably. Not sure on that, but and then one last difference here on the, although saying that's exactly what's happening on this Grand Seiko, is although it's raised where it meets the case, it actually drops. Instead of on the Rolex Alike, it's going upwards as it leaves the case. On the Grand Seiko, it's going downwards as it leaves the case. And that doesn't seem to have had too much effect on the positioning of the bracelet. So two main styles. There's quite a few differences in my initial investigation as to how they can be executed. But what do you think of, maybe these two are the best to show you, what do you think design-wise of female end link versus male end link? Which do you prefer, taking fit out of the equation? Well, that's been my little bit of research and video on male versus female end links. I hope you've enjoyed it. And as I say, if you could let me know what you think, that would be great. But for the time being, one wrist, live it.